So today I have some great news to start with. Nvidia is finally folding against gamers on price. Switch 2 has a major flaw in Nvidia's next GPU performance and specs leak. Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. But first, you wouldn't overclock your CPU on stock cooling, so why are you still using a mousepad the size of a Pop-Tart? Introducing the Mainframe Deskpad by GamerMeld, a full-surface, zero-compromise deskpad designed for the kind of rig that deserves better than whatever this is, with enough real estate to house your keyboard, mouse, elbow, and shattered dreams from last night's ranked match. Inspired by circuit schematics and some spiciness, this thing printed like a motherboard, except it won't overheat under pressure, and it comes with an anti-slip rubber backing, low-friction cloth top, and dimensions that'll make your old mousepad question its purpose in life. This isn't an accessory, it's an upgrade. Just visit meldstore.com to get your mainframe deskpad today, or visit the link in the description below. Go big or get bottlenecked. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today, while many people still aren't able to find an RTX 50 GPU almost anywhere, things are finally beginning to look up. In fact, it's looking like gamers are starting to beat Nvidia back. Now, while I have multiple stories on this, we're gonna start off with the RTX 5070. As you can see right here, Nvidia's RTX 5070 is actually available below MSRP in the UK, and in fact, it's even better than that. But let's first go over that model. This one comes from Overclockers UK, which is of course a very prominent retailer for PC hardware, so this is 100% legitimate. And as you'll notice, well, it's still here. I can add it to my basket even hours after the news on this dropped, and there were stories everywhere. But believe it or not, the actual price of this card being on sale below MSRP isn't even the really big story. Speaking of though, while it is still available, when it comes to that price, it's at £518.99, and this includes VAT. So when we look over here though, when it comes to the real story about this, you can see that the official UK MSRP is currently £529. You can see it right over here. This comes from Nvidia's official website, RTX 5070, £529. So yes, this is at least a little bit cheaper than the official MSRP, but like I said, that is not the big story here. The simple fact is that £529 is not what Nvidia officially released the 5070 at. As you can see here, it's actually slightly lower than its original £539 launch MSRP in the UK, which means this isn't just some one-off or anything like that. Nvidia themselves have actually lowered the official MSRP since launch. And like I said, yes, I understand that even now, a ton of people aren't even able to buy an RTX 5070 at just about any price. Now, don't get me wrong, I do believe there's still some at Amazon, but they are pretty far above MSRP. The thing is, this is a very good sign. Don't forget that while tons of RTX 50 cards haven't exactly been well received, the RTX 5070 has been hands down the worst launch so far. I mean, it's barely an upgrade over the 4070, it's completely pathetic next to AMD's newest cards as well. It really is abysmal to say the least. And of course, the 9070 GPUs are likely a big cause for this, but that's just because consumers are choosing them over the 5070. Plus, those cards are barely anywhere either. The simple fact is that the consumer has all the power. If we would just stop buying GPUs at these absurd prices, what do you think would happen? Nvidia can't just hold on to them, they have to sell them. So prices go down. And that's exactly how you get rid of scalpers as well. All it would take is for them to lose money just a couple times and they'd quit risking it. Basically, we have all the power. And at least with the 5070, it looks like we're winning, especially because the same thing appears to also be happening in Japan. You can see here that the 5070 goes below MSRP in Japan for the first time. Not only that, but somewhat not necessarily related to just all around the board prices going down or anything like that. This is just an interesting one. Apparently, within Walmart's returns section, some people are finding RTX 50 GPUs for under MSRP. You can see that this person got a 5080 for $900. Still fairly an absurd price, and once again, if you didn't buy it at $900, well, they'd have to lower the price. Ultimately, this is a reminder that we are the ones in control, not Nvidia, AMD, or anyone. The 5070 is hated, so Nvidia is being forced to lower its price. And next up for today, I've got some bad news for anyone that was planning to purchase Nintendo's upcoming Switch 2. Obviously, there's been a ton of flack that they've been getting for the pretty large increase in price going from Switch 1 to Switch 2, but this one sort of hits home in a bit of a different way. For anyone who owned the original Switch, me included, a lot of people had issues with the Joy-Cons, specifically with stick drift. And one of the major ways of fixing this is to use a Hall effect stick. And obviously, a lot of people were kind of hoping that this new Switch, especially at the price that it's at, the Joy-Cons would come with this tech. Well, unfortunately, it looks like it isn't. As you can see right here, it says, as reported by Nintendo Life, Nate Bildorf, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, either way, the Senior Vice President of Product Development and Publishing at Nintendo of America. And basically, he confirmed this through a sit-down interview with him by Nintendo Life. It says other company representatives have opined that Switch 2's default control system features very, quote, durable feeling sticks, but when asked about the reason behind these new gen modules feeling so different, Bildorf responded with, quote, well, the Joy-Con 2's controllers have been designed from the ground up. They're not Hall effect sticks, but they feel really good. So yeah, this completely confirms it. Switch 2 does not come with Hall effect sticks. So, I mean, hopefully they have ultimately fixed the drift issue, but one of the major ways of fixing it is to use Hall effect stick technology, but unfortunately, they're not. So yeah, if you were hoping that it was basically completely fixed on the new Switch 2, it likely isn't. And lastly for today, we have our first benchmark on Nvidia's next GPU, their RTX 5060 Ti. And this not only gives us an idea of performance, it also tells us a bit of the specs. As you can see right down here, these are a couple different benchmarks within Geekbench 6. Specifically, of course, we're looking at OpenCL and Vulkan. And before I kind of get to the results, let's quickly go over a little bit of what it actually tells us. For one, it confirms that the GPU does in fact come with 36 compute units, which of course is 4,608 CUDA cores. Then this particular model comes with a boost clock of 2,647 megahertz and obviously 16 gigabytes of memory. It says 15.9, but of course it's 16. Then when it comes to performance, you can see in OpenCL it scored 146,234, while in Vulkan it scored 140,147. Then as you'll see, when it comes to versus the 9070 non-XT GPU, this puts the card at a measly 5% higher in OpenCL score, but it gets completely crushed by the non-XT 9070 by losing 16% in Vulkan. Then when we compare it to the last gen 4060 Ti, the 5060 Ti is just 13 to 14% faster. These 50 cards just do not cease to disappoint. I mean, this is the kind of upgrade you get on a new CPU in gaming, which that may sound, oh, that's okay. We like when, CPUs are 15% faster in gaming, but don't forget that that's because the CPU is almost never the bottleneck. We should expect far better performance in gaming with the GPU. To say these GPUs from Nvidia have been massively disappointing is of course an understatement. Yes, multi-frame gen is nice, and it's going to be nice to see how that evolves over time, but when it comes to like real performance, like actual performance driven from better hardware, not software implementations, 13 to 14% faster is a joke. So while that does it for today, are you pumped that GPU pricing seems to finally, at least in some areas, be going down? Or are you just disappointed in that 5060 Ti performance? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to check out the mainframe desk pad at meldstore.com. And as always, have a great day.